Dunkirk is a new film by writer and director Christopher Nolan about the evacuation of the city of Dunkirk during World War II. I really like Christopher Nolan as a writer and director. He's done some countless great films like Memento, The Prestige, the Dark Knight trilogy, which I love. I really liked Inception, and I really liked Interstellar. Notice how I said liked on those last two. Problems with Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker really lie in his storytelling techniques, and especially because his films are sometimes way too long, as is the case with both Inception and Interstellar, and he tends to overreach towards the end of the movie, which he did with Interstellar, with that whole plot twist. I still enjoyed those movies, but when it came to Dunkirk, I was like, this could be the chance where Christopher Nolan doesn't have the chance to do a crazy plot twist and try and mind-blow the audience. Because this is a true story. This actually happened. So I want to see what Christopher Nolan does with a true story. And to be honest, mind blown. The way Christopher Nolan chooses to tell the story in this movie is really interesting. It's told from three perspectives: the land, the sea, and the air. The aerial dogfights are some of the best ever put on screen. I can tell you that right now. These dogfights were so realistic. It wasn't just planes shooting at each other. No, it was actually planes shooting and missing and circling back to try and kill the other plane. It was so intense and realistic. The opening scene of this movie on land alone just set the tone for this movie. You could just tell from the get-go that this was going to be a vicious, harrowing, volatile movie, and that's basically what it is. When he's showing aspects of the sea, you get the sense that these people are in danger, that there's no sense of hope. They don't ever think they're getting home. He conveys that so well. Everything he does in these three perspectives of storytelling is done so well. Back to the opening scene, like I said, it sets the tone for the whole movie. The whole movie is like that. This whole thing is intense. Not a moment of non-tension passes by. There is not a single moment where there is no tension. I was surprised. I was like, this is making me a little uneasy to watch. This whole movie was intense. That's what it felt like throughout. Not to say that this whole movie was depressing. I mean, it kind of was, but I mean, that's kind of what the situation was probably like back then. He conveys it just so well with his visuals and his editing and his storytelling. It's all really well put together. He can show a situation with so much intensity and so much tension with very little dialogue, and the story just comes from that tension is just really, really, really groundbreaking to me. The acting in this movie is also really good. I can see Mark Rylance getting another Best Supporting Actor nomination for this. I really liked Cillian Murphy in his limited screen time. Kenneth Branaugh is really good. Harry Styles, that One Direction kid, he's also really good. He doesn't have much to say, but he does a really good job at conveying emotions. The one actor I didn't really like in this movie was Tom Hardy. His lines are mumbled. He doesn't really have much to do. He's a pilot, so he just stays in the air and shoots at planes, which is fine. I understand that he's a pilot. He has to do that. But his lines, when he talks, everything is mumbled. I couldn't understand a word Tom Hardy was saying. It just sounded like this.
Do you accept this man's resignation? And the resignation of the week I got them shit, I'm going to break you, Batman.
I've noticed that with a couple of Tom Hardy performances now, and it's kind of getting on my nerves. Negative for the movie I have is this. Despite being really intense, I would say probably 90% of this movie is all intensity. From that opening scene to the closing. It's just the scenes in the middle where there's not a lot going on. That's where I kind of checked out and was just like, I'm thinking about other things. Can we just get back to, the depressing stuff? Which is kind of sad because it's like, yeah, this movie is depressing. These people have given up on hope. But that's what the situation was like. At least that's what I imagine it was like. So I'm like, yeah, can we actually do the evacuation instead of having me think about different things when the movie slows down? Credit to Christopher Nolan, because when you see Christopher Nolan's name attached to this, you're like, oh, that's going to be 2.5 hours. No, this is an hour and 45, and he crams so much story, so much visual planning, and shot planning, and acting, and writing into this movie that it really all fits into that runtime. And I was really happy. I was like, this movie did not have to be any longer, nor did it have to be any shorter. Unlike Interstellar, which definitely did not have to be 2 hours and 49 minutes. Visually, this movie was really, really stunning to look at. Hoyt van Hoytema, who did films like Interstellar, Spectre, he always does a really good job with the cinematography. Another great job here. This movie is just full of intensity. Christopher Nolan nails it. I didn't really like Tom Hardy in this movie, and there were kind of couple scenes in the middle where I was just like, I'm thinking about other things. Or thinking about those other things in those scenes, I still knew what was going on and could follow what was going on, even when I was casually watching it. And that's a good thing. This movie was very interesting, very depressing, but a story that had to be told, and that's probably what the situation was like. It's one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies, and I think his best since The Dark Knight, or The Dark Knight Rises. I'm going to give Dunkirk an A-. One of the better Christopher Nolan movies, and I'm glad he made this movie, because it was really interesting to watch him take on a true story. Dunkirk is in full swing. Are you guys going to watch it? If you did you see it? I want to know what you thought of it, so drop me a comment in the comment section below, and you can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, you're on YouTube, subscribe at the end of this video, check out some other videos I've done. I want to thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. I'll see you next time.